reste une cran, je pense que c'est pas très bien isolé. So, is everybody here? Yes? So we discover different creation of the house, and now we will discover together the new creation of the house since 1 month, since few weeks. This is the vintage 2012. We had a rosé vintage 2012 that is a quest of an aromatic profile. So it's not the story of the year. The vintage 2012 we will discover now is the story of a year. So to understand what is a vintage, we have to go back to the foundation of the house with Apolline Henriot. If Apolline Henriot wanted... Je sais pas si on m'entend bien. Si. If Apolline Henriot wanted to tell her whole vineyard through a champagne made by blend of years and blend of cru, she wanted to tell the beauty of the nature with one singular year, to tell the weather and to tell what's happened in the vineyard. So this is the vintage. So vintage is one of the most historical creation of the house. It's one of the two creations of our founder. Concretely, a vintage is a unique creation by the composition in the blend of grape varieties, of selection of cru, of patch of vine selected. And it's unique thanks to the profile because it's really due to a specific weather. So here you'll discover a unique creation. If you like 2012, it's now, because in the future we will have a new story with a new vintage. So to understand what is 2012, I propose you to do an exercise in order to feel the different facets of the weather in 2012 and the different facets of the aromatic profile of the Henriot vintage 2012 we have. You have 3 glasses at your disposal with the same champagne in every glasses. It's for you to play, to be able to play during the different parts that we will discover. Now we will immerse ourselves in the year 2012 to understand what's happened in terms of weather, and in the meantime we will taste the vintage in order to feel what's happened in the champagne and what was the selection when we created it. We will have 3 parts. We will have 3 episodes in the weather 2012 that we will discover. For every part, every 3 parts, we will have a bite specifically created to reveal the aromas due to the part of the weather. The chef is here. It's Benjamin Gilles. It's a very, very, very interesting chef. He worked with us since a long time. We love his creation because he always thinks to the house, to our story, to the profile of our champagnes. And we created together an evening. A few weeks ago, we created specific bites for this experience and for every episode in the weather of 2012. So don't hesitate during the experience to play with the bites, with the champagne, and with what you will see, what you will hear, and what you will feel. I propose you to immerse yourself in the first parts of 2012. Let's go to the tasting. So, you want to be outside, yeah? Very warm. What is weather? First part was a disaster until half of July. So imagine the moral of people in Champagne area, of growers. It was really, really hard. It was an extreme in cold weather. First, we had snow. It's rare to have snow during few weeks and to have snow very present during 2 or 3 weeks in Champagne area. Okay, this morning we had a little bit of snow. Okay, it can be the case during few days, but not 3 weeks. So we had snow, and it was funny because we didn't anticipate it at the time, so it was difficult to drive in Champagne area at the time. And then we had very, very cold nights with a record with 10 days and nights in temperature in negative, less than in negative, under 0, 10 degrees. It's very, very rare in Champagne area, difficult for the vine, really difficult. When you have this temperature, you cannot work in the vineyard. You cannot do the pruning. So it was like a break. We had to wait the weather with new conditions. And then, it's not finished. We had rain, record of rain. We had the equivalent of half a year in terms of raining during 1 month and a half. So a disaster for the vine, and it was during the period of flowering. So the moral was really bad. And to finish this first part of the weather, we had hailstorms until half of July. So we lost a part of the yield because of these hailstorms. To reveal the profile we obtained thanks to this first part of weather in the Champagne, we created with Benjamin Gilles a bite composed by oyster, frost pulp of apple, like a granité, and seaweed. It permits to reveal the part of aromas that is focused on minerality, freshness, iodic profile, salt, sensation. Let's go to the second part of the weather. we feel better. Definitely we feel better. Another extreme, a new extreme. We have a big contrast to compare with the first part of the weather, because here we have a warm and very dry weather. No rain from half of July to the 20th of September. Warm and dry weather. There is something that we didn't expect. We didn't expect to have an hydric stress of the vine, because we had a lot of raining during the first part, but we had an hydric stress during the second part. Completely crazy. So it was hard for the vine to do the maturation. It was hard to do the photosynthesis process. It was hard to have a normal development in the grapes. So we were, again, very afraid by this period. That was interesting because it gave to the champagne a certain profile, more focused on richness, generosity, spices, aromas, something with powerful, with character. And to reveal that, we created a bite with butternut and the yellow part of the egg, with soya and a spicy that is ras el hanout, that gives this richness and this generosity. Now, I propose you to discover the third part of the weather 2012. after September 20th, it's like a reconciliation between the two first episodes. We have the perfect weather with sun, with fresh nights, with sweet temperature but not too much, and with humidity during the nights. So it's perfect for the nature to be reconciled, and for the maturation, the end of the period of maturation of the grapes. And we obtain something really interesting in the grapes in terms of tasting. We had the reconciliation between the cold weather, the warm weather, the cold profile of aromas, and the richness of the warm weather. So it was really beautiful. The result was not expected, and it was something really, really nice for the moral, because the year was hard, it was difficult to work in the vineyards with the rain, with the snow, etc. It was difficult during the winter until half of July, and then it was difficult because when it's too warm outside with very high temperature, it's not easy to do manual work in the vine. And then for the harvest, we had really wonderful harvest, really wonderful grapes to make great wines. During the tasting of the wines obtained thanks to the harvest, it was again a beautiful surprise with a lot of contrast in the champagne, with a lot of contrast in terms of aromas, in terms of sensation, in terms of structure. It's a champagne very dynamic, and this is exactly that we wanted to keep when we created 2012, or your vintage 2012. We wanted to keep this contrast, these paradoxes, reconciled in the same blend. So, which is the blend? It's a blend composed by 54% of Chardonnay and 46% of Pinot Noir first. And then you have 6 different crus. You have Trépaille that is major. Trépaille, I mentioned it in the pressoir before, is one of the rare crus in the north of Montagne de Reims, exposed to the north, so in cold terroir, but planted in Chardonnay. Then you have Maille Champagne. Maille Champagne is one of the most historical crus in the house of Henriot, because it's one of the crus of the founder of the house in the north of Montagne de Reims, in Pinot Noir. Then you have Verzenay, same historical cru from the Montagne de Reims in Pinot Noir. Avenay. Avenay is in the south of Montagne de Reims. Very interesting. This cru in general gives a sort of generosity, gives powerful, gives character. Then you have 2 villages from the Côte des Blancs, so more in the south, in the sectors of Chardonnay, with Avize and Chouilly, 2 very famous Grand Crus of the Côte des Blancs. So this diversity in this vintage was really important to be sure to keep every facet of the weather in the champagne and every facet we obtain in terms of aromatic profile. To reveal this reconciliation and to reveal these paradoxes and contrasts, we created with Benjamin Gilles a bite composed by bacon, larfumé in French, bacon from the region, of course. Every dish are from France, of course, and a local dish. And then you have to have a contrast. This part of bacon that is sweet, that is very comfortable, that gives a sweet sensation, velvet sensation. And to contrast it, we have a carpaccio of Saint-Jacques that gives Frenchness, that gives the elegance, and that can balance the richness of the bacon. I hope you understand better 2012, and I really hope you will remember perfectly what's happened in the vineyard in 2012. Thank you so much for the tasting. I propose you now to have a lunch together and to continue to talk about the house, of course, and give pleasure together. Thank you so much. And cheers. Cheers. it's always cold here, and now you have and help to be better, to forget the weather.